I will share on MS Teams for the lab classes. I'm going to share the class instruction, performance, and observations and the readings for our next experiment. And tomorrow we will have the lab class at 11 a.m. in the morning. So that will be our question answer session. So I will answering your queries, and if you will have any confusion, so I'm going to respond your question. So these are the class instructions. So I have already taken the readings. So I am going to share. So these are already on my Google Drive. So there will be no problem regarding sharing of this lecture. So there will be 4 files in total. Number 1 will be instruction for the experiment. Number 2 will be performance for the experiment. And number 3 will be the calculations and the reading that you shall use to make the class report. So I will share after this lecture. So tomorrow we will have the question answer session. So before joining the team session tomorrow, please you need to watch these videos because I will ask you the question one by one. And based on your answer, I will mark the attendance. So you understand class here?
Yes sir.
तो ये बाद में अपने पूरी क्लास को भी कन्वे कर देना आपने, ठीक है? तो कल मैं क्वेश्चनिंग करूंगा, जो आंसर करेगा वो
Okay sir.
अटेंडेंस मार्क दो, ठीक? Okay, now let me start the today's lecture. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear students, last time we studied the application of shear flow or the shear stresses for thin wall section, and we derived the expression for a distribution of shear flow and shear stress in flange and web of thin wall section. And then we have proven from derivation that distribution of shear flow will be linear in flange, and it will be parabolic in web. And also we can perceive the direction of shear flow. So there are actually total 3 things that are associated for a thin wall section when it is subjected to applied shear. So we will study that. Number 1 thing is that what is the direction of the shear flow and what is the distribution of shear flow. So distribution of shear flow is actually the force acting per unit length, how this force is varying along the length of the member, and the direction is that what is the direction of the shear flow. And number 3 thing is that why it is called the shear flow. And after that we have also discussed that the shear flow in the flange will be equal to the shear flow. Shear flow at the junction will be summation of the shear flow in the flanges. So for example, this was the shear flow that we have computed in the half flange. So actually this is reverse. Yes, we have computed this shear flow within half flange. Half flange means from here to here. So similarly, from this flange, for the left flange, from its pre-end tip to the junction, we will have the same magnitude of the shear flow because cross section is symmetrical and the area is same. So it means that if I want to compute the total shear flow at this junction, so at this junction I need to consider the entire area above the junction, which is the total area of the flange. It means that if you have already computed the shear flow for the half flange and shear flow for the other half flange, if you will sum up the shear flow, that will be equal to the total shear flow at this junction, corresponding to web. So this you have computed, that is equal to VBH over VBHT over 4I. And similarly, shear flow with respect to web at the junction is equal to VBH over 2D or 2I, sorry, which is twice as of the shear flow in the half flange. So if you are adding up or summing up the shear flow of both flanges, that will be equal to VBH over 2I. So let me correct this mistake, because this is the expression for half length and this is the expression for web. So if you will multiply this df by 2, so you will have exactly the same shear flow at the junction with respect to web. So this is only true if the thickness of the flange and the web is same. So actually we can consider the equilibrium at the junction. So at the junction, for example, if you assume that you are cutting this section here, if you want to cut the flange separately, just like you have removed this entire flange. So in this entire flange, you will have a resisting force here. And this resisting force will be equal to this shear flow. And this shear flow I am regarding as a TF. So let me copy this entire diagram just to explain. If I copy this, and let me copy here. So you can say that that is the DF force. You can say that is shear flow in the flange, and this shear flow in the flange is will be equal to can convert into force, and this will be equal to shear. You can say that that is the maybe force in the flange, or VF. We can say that force in the flange, or you can, because that is a shear force, so it is better to represent as a shear force, capital B, or you can also present DF also. So that will be equal to, if you multiply this shear stresses or shear flow with the area, so area will be this thickness of flange multiplied by 1, because we are considering this thickness as a unit, or dz. So this thickness we are assuming a unit length and thickness of flange, so into multiply by 1. So this will be the force in flange 1. So force in half flange. Similarly, you will have the same VF force on this other flange. So if you are cutting this section at the junction, so you will have 3 cutting surfaces, 1 at the web and 2 at the flanges. So these forces must be equal to the shear flow in the web. So in the web, we are having this shear flow, which is you can represent as a DF or VW. VW is shear force in the web, and this force can be computed. So this force at the junction of the web, I'm regarding as a equal to VW, and that will be equal to shear stress or shear flow. So if you are using this as a shear flow, so you only need to multiply with TF. So one will be excluded. So that will be W, and that will be thickness of web. Okay, now at this junction, we are, if you are cutting this center point at a junction, so we are having one surface with respect to web, and we are having two cutting surface with respect to flange. One is the right flange and one is the left flange. So the forces in flanges must be balanced with the forces in web. So two forces in the flanges must be balanced with the one force in the web. So that's why we are having this expression. So if I want to further, so this will be, let me write the equation here, and then I will go back to previous slide to explain. Just to balance the equilibrium. So 2 times of shear force in the flange must be equal to Pw. So if you are substituting the values of Vf and Vw here from this here, so you will have this expression exactly. So if the thicknesses are same, if thickness of the flange and web are same, then the shear flow or the shear stress in the web will be twice as of the shear flow or shear flange in the shear force or shear stress in the flange. But if the thicknesses are different, then the ratio of shear stresses in the web to the shear stress in the flange will be equal to 2 times of the thickness of flange to thickness of web. So here you have you. So thickness shear flow in the web will only be equal to 2 times of the shear flow or the shear stress in the flange if the thicknesses are same. Otherwise, you need to compute by this formula. So please see this problem 5.62. It is solved in Mechanics of Materials book, and I believe you have already solved this problem in Mechanics of Materials. But anyhow, I will share the solution of this problem also. So now we are going to study the characteristics of shear flow. Actually, why this is called shear flow? Because we have to use the analogy of flow, water flow, in order to perceive the direction of internal shear force or shear flow in thin-walled section. And how we can perceive, I will have to explain. And we have to use same analogy as of water flow. Just like water, it flow from in one direction only. And you have already studied in the fluid mechanics that the total flow coming at the junction will be equal to total flow going from the junction. And also flow is originated from the one side and it is being consumed on the other side. So same thing we have to same analogy we have to use to perceive the direction of the shear flow and the distribution of shear stress in thin wall section. For example, here after derivation, I have explained that in flanges, for example, here, yes, in the flanges, the direction of the shear flow or shear stress is opposite, and in the web direction of the shear flow is always in one direction. Similarly, direction of the shear flow or the shear stress is opposite with respect to top flanges, but they are having same magnitude if the cross section is symmetrical. But can we perceive the direction of shear flow directly without determining or without determining the magnitude of shear flow or shear stresses? So we are having three things. Number one, direction of the shear flow. Number two is the distribution of shear flow. And number three, what will be the magnitude of shear flow. And how we can perceive, so there are some highlights or some characteristics of shear flow. So shear flow in the part of the element to the resisting shear force is always in the direction of resisting shear force at any section or opposite to applied shear. Okay, this I will explain This we can study in terms of two effects. So let's suppose we are having this cantilever beam. So in this cantilever beam, if I want to study what is the shear flow at any section, for example, this is the section I want to consider. So you can study in terms of two concepts. Number one will be with respect to applied force, applied shear. So at this section, we will have this shear force. If I want to study what is shear force, so this will be the shear force at any this particular section, and this shear force will be opposite to this applied force. So this is the applied force P, you can say. So if you are cutting this section, so resisting shear flow will be acting in upward direction. So how I can explain? So if you are doing the cutting section, so this will be the resisting shear flow, or shear force which is acting in upward direction. Okay, I'm sketching over here. And the magnitude of this shear force will be equal to this V. So it means that if I want to consider the total shear force at this point, at this section, I can discuss this shear force at this section with respect to applied force or with respect to resisting shear. So P is the applied shear and V is the resisting shear force which is produced at this section. So resisting shear force will always be opposite to applied force. And this shear force must be equal to the total shear force produced in the web of section. If you know the total shear flow in the web and if you multiply this shear flow with the length of the web, so that answer must be equal to this resisting shear force at that section. Or if you want to discuss in terms of stresses, so what is the total stress, total shear stress in the web? If you multiply total shear stress with the area of the web, that must be equal to V. So what I want to say that total shear force must be resisted by the web only, because web is parallel to the applied force, and we assume that the flanges they are not contributing to resist the applied shear. So it means we can perceive the direction of shear flow or the direction of shear stress in the web with respect to applied force or with respect to resisting shear. So direction of the shear flow in the web will always be in the direction of resisting shear force or opposite to the applied force field. So by mistake, if you have considered any direction, that will be correct because answer will be remain unchanged. So we are only interested in the magnitude. But again, if you want to discuss the direction with respect to applied force, direction of the shear flow will be opposite to the applied force in the web, but in the direction of resisting shear, because resisting shear is always produced in response to the applied force. Now I'm going to explain this point. So this point says that first of all, we need to perceive the direction of shear flow in the component of the section which is parallel to applied force or resisting shear force. So you can discuss the concept of applied force or concept of resisting shear, because resisting shear force at any section will be opposite to applied force. So he says that, for example, here in this section, if I'm discussing here, I have written. So you can assume that this is a section where applied shear is acting upward. So this is the applied force P, applied force P, which is acting upward. It's a cantilever being subjected to upward force. So at any section, the shear forces will be in the downward direction. So V is the resisting shear which is produced opposite to the applied force. So always perceive the direction of shear flow in the direction in the component which is parallel to the resisting shear or applied force. So if applied force is acting upward in the web, then the shear flow will be acting downward, opposite to the applied shear or in the direction of resisting shear force. So first of all, always try to sketch the direction of shear flow. So here you are having three diagrams. I will explain step by step. This is the direction of the shear flow, which is shown by small arrow. This is the distribution of shear flow or the shear stress on along the length of flange and along the length of web. And this is the resisting or resulting forces that we can determine by multiplying the shear flow with the length of member. So anyhow, first we need to perceive the direction of the shear flow. So shear flow in the component may be flange or maybe web, which is parallel to the applied force, will have opposite direction. Or the shear flow direction of shear flow in the component which is parallel to the resisting shear will have the same direction as of resisting shear. So by mistake, if you have sketched upward, so that will also be the correct. So next is shear flow occurs in one direction through the thin wall of the open section. Just like the water flow, if it is originated or occurring at one side of the pipe, so it is going to consume or discharge on the other side of the pipe. So at the junction of the element, incoming flow should be equal to the outgoing flow. So I will explain now here. So let's suppose you have perceived the direction of shear flow in the web first. So always draw the direction of the shear flow in the component which is parallel to the applied force or resisting force. So if the flow is going downward in the web, so you already know that the flow always is unidirectional. So it means that if this flow is coming downward, so it is obvious that the flow is coming from this junction. So it means that flow should be coming from this tips. So we are assuming that flow will always be originated at the corner or at the free end tips. And the direction of the shear flow must be left side with respect to right flank and right side with respect to left flank. Because if the flow is going downward, it means that at the junction, the flow must be coming from opposite side. So if you have perceived the flow in the web, you can also perceive the flow in the flanges. So flow is originated from this corner and it is moving toward this junction because it need to be compatible with the flow in the web. Similarly, flow is coming from this free end tip and it is also moving toward this junction. So shear flow in this half line will be QF and shear flow at this line will be QF. So total shear flow which is coming at this junction must be equal to the outgoing flow. So total flow which is coming at this junction of web is equal to 2 times of shear flow in the flange, because half flow is coming from the one side and half flow is coming from the other side. So total flow which is outgoing from this side must be equal to 2 times of the shear flow in the flanges. So that's why we are using the analogy of shear flow. Just like if two pipes they are being connected at a bigger pipe, so total flow which is coming at this junction must be equal to the outgoing flow. So that's why the shear flow at the junction of the web is equal to the summation of the shear flow in the flanges. If the section is symmetrical, that will be exactly 2 times of the shear flow with respect to half length. Okay, next is the value of shear flow is 0 at free tips of the element, and more flow is generated or contributed as more area is added moving toward neutral axis. So he says that shear flow will always be 0 at free end tips. At this free end, shear flow will be 0. Why? Because cutting layer or cutting section is vertical. What is the partial area on one side, which is the right side of this layer? 0. So since no area is here, so shear flow is 0. So when we are moving toward junction or moving toward neutral axis, so more area is being added, area is increasing, so shear flow is increasing. So that's why shear flow is 0. So if we plot the distribution shear flow, so shear flow is increasing linearly and it becomes maximum in the junction with respect to this line. And similarly, at this free end tip, shear flow will be 0 because no area is available on this left side. When we are moving toward this, so area is increasing. So if area is increasing, because moment arm will be remain constant, thickness will remain constant, only the width of flange is increasing. So that's why shear flow is increasing, moving from the free end tip to this junction because more area is being added up. So both this value and this value will be positive. So just to differentiate the right flange with reference to left flange, they are sketched on the opposite direction. But you can sketch both distribution of shear flow on the one direction. Okay, next, shear flow is assumed to be generated from one side of neutral axis and is assumed to be absorbed at other end. So we are assuming that shear flow is generated from the one side and is being consumed on the other side, just like analogy. So we are assuming that shear flow is originated at free end tips from the one side of neutral axis. So at this junction, with respect to web, we are having shear flow 2 times of the shear flow in the flanges. When we are moving toward neutral axis, for example here, so more area of the web is added, so shear flow is increasing. So it is having maximum value in the neutral axis. But when we are moving to the other side, so shear flow start reducing because it is flow is being consumed on the other side. Why? Because half of this section is in compression and half of this section is in tension when it is subjected to bending. So that's why the forces on the one side which are positive, that will become negative when we are moving to the other side. So just to maintain the equilibrium, so total resultant answer must be 0. So section must be in equilibrium. So we are assuming that shear flow is being originated from the one side of neutral axis at free end tip. It is moving downward. So when shear flow is coming at this junction, so obviously it must disperse toward this direction. So at this junction, total shear flow coming at this junction must be equal to the total shear flow from leaving this junction. So here the shear flow is 2 times of the shear flow in the flange. So one type of half of the shear flow is moving toward this, and half of the shear flow will be dissipating or being consumed at free end tip. So we are assuming that shear flow is being originated at free end tip from on the one side of neutral axis, and it is being consumed at free end tips on the other side of neutral axis. So since the section is symmetrical, so if you are plotting the shear flow for the half section, the other part will be the symmetrical, will have the identical or mirror image of the top part. Next, the amount of shear flow is proportional to the first moment of area. First moment of all the areas added up to the point under consideration. So if you want to compute the total shear flow at the neutral axis, you need to consider the moment of area of this total flange and half of the web. Or you can consider this moment of first area by parts. You can consider half of the flanges separately and the web portion separately. Or if you have already computed the contribution of this half flange, then you will simply add this value to the shear flow contributed by this half of the web and other side. We have already done this practice in our previous lecture. And next, for the straight element perpendicular to the load or resisting shear, the shear flow will varies linearly as first moment of area increases linearly with constant moment arm. So as I have already explained, so these small arrows, these are showing the direction of the shear flow, and this triangular, this showing the distribution of the shear flow. Shear flow is zero here, and it is maximum in the junction with respect to flange. So this element, which is the flange, it is perpendicular to resisting shear or applied force. So the element perpendicular to the resisting shear or applied force will undergo linear distribution. So we'll have the linear variation of shear flow. Why linear variation? Because we have already derived the expression. Because shear flow in the flanges, which is perpendicular to the applied force, is the single degree function of x. Why single degree function of the x? Because when we are moving from here to junction, thickness of flange remain constant. Movement arm will also remain constant. Only the width of the area is increasing. So when we move from here to here, so only the width of the area is increasing, which is the showing the linear distribution of shear stresses or shear flow in flanges. So the variation of shear flow or the shear stresses will be linear in the part which is perpendicular to applied force or resisting shear. Reason I have explained. First moment of area increase linear with the constant movement arm, because movement arm is constant and thickness is also constant. For the element parallel to the load, the static moment of area and the movement arm both increases. Q moment of area and area, okay, here I have to write, and both increases and hence shear flow increases. So when we do in the element which is parallel to applied force, for example, here in the web. So when we are moving, for example, if you are considering this half area of the web, so in this area, thickness remains constant, and y is this one, and moment arm is from the center of this area to this point. But if you consider this complete area, thickness of the web will remain constant, this y is increasing, and moment arm it is also increasing. So it means that we are having second degree change, because moment arm is also changing and the height or the depth of area is also changing. So shear stress distribution will be the second degree function of the static moment of area, because both moment arm and the depth, they are increasing. So moment of area and moment arm both increase, hence shear flow varies parabolically. So in the part of the element which is parallel to the resisting shear or applied force will have parabolic distribution, because distribution of shear stress or shear flow is the second degree function of the y value, because both moment arm is increasing and the depth of the area is also increasing. So the fourth point, last point is very important. I will explain in the next slide, but I will just read out from here at the moment. Those elements for which the contribution is insignificant in providing the moment of inertia are assumed to develop no shear flow. So I need to highlight this. So again, we are having three things. Small arrow shows the direction of the shear flow. This shows the distribution of shear flow. So actually the shear flow is the force acting per unit length. So if this average shear flow is multiplied with the length of the element, then we can convert into force diagram. Similarly, this is shear flow is the force acting per unit length. Average shear flow multiplied by the length of this web will be equal to total shear flow force in the web. So if you are plotting in terms of stress, then average shear stress multiplied by the area of the flange, and average shear stress in the web multiplied by the area of web, then you will have the force in the flanges and the web. So we are having three diagrams. One is the direction of the shear flow, distribution of shear flow, and resulting force diagram. So now we are having some practice. So here, so we will study that how we can perceive. For example, we are having this Z section. We are assuming that total resisting shear force in this section is acting in downward direction, or maybe simply called beam or cantilever beam, or maybe applied force is acting in upward direction. So first of all, you need to get the direction of the shear flow in the part of the element which is webbed, which is parallel to the applied force or resisting shear. So you may consider in any direction. So if the P force is acting upward, so resisting shear will be downward. Shear flow direction will be downward. If you are having resisting shear force which is acting downward, so the shear flow in the web will be in the same direction. But if you have by mistake sketched the direction upward, so I will assume as a correct because that will not going to affect the answer. So always sketch the direction of shear flow in the portion which is parallel to the applied shear or resisting shear. So I have sketched. So if you know the direction of the shear flow in this web, so it means that flow is always in unidirectional and it's move along the center line of the element. So if the flow is going down, so it is obvious that so flow is being originated from here. So we must have the flow originated from this corner and it must move from this direction because flow is always unidirectional. So if you know the direction of the flow in the web, we can easily perceive the direction of the shear flow in the top line. Similarly, the flow is going downward, so shear flow coming at this junction must be equal to shear flow going from this junction. So this means that from this junction, direction of shear flow in this flange must be acting to the right side. Similarly, in this I section, we are assuming that resisting shear force is acting downward. So this web is parallel to the resisting shear. We will always show the direction of shear flow here. So flow is coming downward direction. So at this junction, flow is coming downward. So total flow outgoing from this junction must be equal to total shear flow coming at this junction using the analogy of shear flow. It means that if the flow is coming downward, it means that flow should be originated from this corner and it is moving toward this side like this. So shear flow in one part of the flange is opposite to the other part, but both direction of the both shear flow must be toward this junction, because we have to follow the analogy of shear flow. Total shear flow coming at this junction must be equal to total shear flow outgoing or leaving this junction. So if you have direction of shear flow in the web, the total shear flow coming at this junction must be equal to the total shear flow going from this junction. So here the flow will be dispersed into two parts. So it must leave this junction to the opposite side. So you can perceive the direction of the shear flow here in this flanges. So flow in the direction will be opposite to each other with respect to the top flange and also with respect to the flange on the other side. But the magnitude of the shear flow in this flange and in this flange will be same, and also in this flange will be same. Why? Because they have same area and they are situated at the same distance from the neutral axis. But if you are having unsymmetrical section, then the shear flow will be different. So shear flow is being assumed being originated from at this free end tip, and it is being consumed at free end tip on the other side. Similarly, this is we are having T section. So this part is parallel to the resisting shear or applied shear. So you can perceive the direction of the shear flow here. Total shear flow which is coming at this point must be equal to shear flow leaving this corner. In this case, we are having inverted I section or head section. Applied shear is or resisting shear is acting downward direction. So here we are having two webs which are parallel to the applied or resisting shear. So half of the shear flow will be here and half of the shear flow will be here. The summation of the shear force in this web and in this web will be equal to the applied force which is acting in the downward direction. So in this portion, we will not have any shear flow. Why we will not have any shear flow? Because this web is lying along the neutral axis. So this web is lying along the neutral axis. So if we are computing the moment of inertia of this web about its central axis, so thickness that will be B into thickness of this web cube. Since the thickness of the web is very small, so the moment of inertia of this web is negligible. So there will be no shear flow acting in this web because we have already discussed in point 10. So the part which is having insignificant contribution in providing the moment of inertia are assumed to develop no shear flow. But on the other hand, this channel section, if applied forces or resisting shear is acting downward, so first of all, you need to sketch the shear flow in this web, and then you can show the direction of the shear flow like this. So this I need to discuss another thing here. So what we need to discuss, I told you that flow is being assumed to originate it at free and tip on one side of neutral axis, and it is assumed to be consumed at free and tip on the other side, just like here. But here you can see that for this section we are having free and tip on the one side, but we are not having free and tip on the other side. Then in that case we can say that flow is being originated either at free and tip or at axis of symmetry on the one side and is being consumed at free and tip or axis of symmetry on the other side. So this is the point which is lying along the axis of symmetry. You can assume that you are having only half of the section. So flow is being originated at free and tip on the one side of neutral axis, and it is being assumed to be consumed at axis of symmetry on the other side. So in this case, flow is coming downward. So if you can perceive the direction of the shear flow in the web, so flow coming at this junction must be total flow which is leaving this junction. So direction must be this. So why you are having shear flow in this web and you are not having shear flow in this web? Because here the centroid of this section is this one. Moment of inertia of this web flange or this horizontal web may be equal to 0 about its own centroid. But by the parallel axis theorem, when you will transfer the moment of inertia of this web from the centroid of this web to this centroid, so it will be a significant value. So in this case, shear flow will not be equal to 0. So similarly, actually I have opened the wrong slide, but anyhow, doesn't matter. So if you are having this T section, in this T section, you will assume the shear flow acting in the downward direction. So you are having three portions, 1, 2, and this 3, which are parallel to resisting shear. So always sketch the direction of the shear flow in a largest portion, this way. So direction of the shear flow will be in the same direction as of resisting shear or opposite to the applied force. If you know the direction of shear flow here, which means that flow must be coming from this side. So you can get the direction of the shear flow in phalanges. So if in this phalanges the flow is moving this side, so shear flow must be acting in upward direction with respect to this projected portion, because flow is unidirectional. So flow is moving from this free and tip, and it is increasing when we are moving toward the neutral axis. And similarly, if you know the direction of the shear flow in the web, so in this junction, it must disperse on the opposite side. So shear flow is always moving along the center line of this section. So here, so if you are having, for example, shear flow here, because shear flow in the center, For example, at any point, we are having shear flow at the same point. So this shear flow will have two components. So we at any point we can say that it will have two components. And this shear flow it will also have the two components. So we can resolve into two components at any point. So at any point, their horizontal component will be cancelled out because they are in opposite direction. And if you will sum up the vertical component of all shear flow, then that summation must be equal to this. So here you are not having any free end tip. So if you are having axis of symmetry, which is parallel to the resisting or the applied shear flow force, then shear flow is assumed to be originated at axis of symmetry on the one side of neutral axis, and it is being consumed at axis of symmetry on the other side. Similarly, here flow is generated at the axis of symmetry on the one side of neutral axis, and direction of the shear flow will always be parallel to the element along the center line. So if you are having direction of shear flow in this part, so in this corner, flow must be moving towards this side. So flow is being originated at axis of symmetry on the one side, and it is being consumed at axis of symmetry on the other side. Similarly here, so you can assume the axis of symmetry here. So flow, just sketch the shear flow on the one half part. So flow is being originated or is having a direction parallel to the resisting shear force in the web. So flow is being generated is being generated at axis of symmetry from the one side moving toward this side, and is being consumed at other side of axis of symmetry. Just like here. So next time we will start from here. So if you will have any question, you can ask me in my next lecture. So please raise the hand who are present, all the students. So many students they are absent. I'm still waiting. तो अब्दुल अनाम साजिद, यार ये रोल नंबर लिखते जाओ। ये अहमद अज़ाम, ये किसी भी लेक्चर में नहीं होता, ये कल भी एब्सेंट है, ठीक है यार। कैन यू हियर मी? लास्ट यार,
यस सर, यस सर।
ये किसी भी लेक्चर में नहीं होता। लास्ट टाइम हमने इसको पूरी दफा चेक किया है। ये हसनैन अली है, ये मोहम्मद जहांगीर, ये भी नहीं होता अक्सर लेक्चर में। ये जाफर, ठीक है, मिस्टर जाफर। और ये इसको भी, ये क्या नाम है इसका, NUJ, एंड मोहम्मद नफीस एंड असामा अली। तो ये 5 रोल नंबर लिख लो। ये बाद में जो आए उनको भी रहने दो, उसको भी एब्सेंट मार्क करना। तो ये डेट आज की 27, मैं भी इसकी पिक्चर कैप्चर कर रहा हूँ ये सारी ना। आई विल मैच माई रिकॉर्ड विद यू। तो इंशाल्लाह विल सी यू टुमारो।